What's up, guys? This is Carter Chapman here. I'm joined with
Leo Baldiga, and we have our podcast, Rad Boys Club.
It's a working title, but it'll probably stay. I don't really know. I kind of made it up last night at dinner, and we went with it.
We went with it because I didn't have any better ideas, so...
So this podcast basically is a potpourri, if you will, of
just
stuff that Leo and I like.
Yeah, because we talk about stuff all the time, and Millard's just like, hey, throw together something.
Yeah, so we'll kind of cover, in this episode specifically, it'll be more about music than anything. Mm-hmm. But we'll get into clothes, other, like, art itself, skating, just all types of different subculture stuff. My phone just went off. I'm so sorry, viewers at home. Anyways, so, yeah, I guess our first order of business, now that we've kind of explained what we're doing, is we're going to do a review of the mixtape Lil Boat by the Atlanta rapper Lil Yachty.
Lil Yachty.
Yeah, he is young. He's only, like, what, 20, 21?
I thought he was, like, 18.
Yeah, he might even be younger than that. I think he's younger than Cardi. I'm not
like,
sure, though.
Yeah, he's really, really young.
He recently rose to fame specifically for being a model in Kanye West's Yeezy Season 3 presentation.
He's the kid with the red braids with the beads that stood up the entire time.
Yeah, and he had, like, I think he had, like, a yellow jacket on.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. He had a good look. I remember that much. But he apparently was a rapper before that and basically got the plug with Kanye from everyone's favorite Ian Connor, who will have our own discussion about him one day because he's a whole beast of his own. But he's got a very interesting style. He kind of has a mix of the typical Atlanta sort of overly reverbed, overly auto-tuned, like...
Yeah, but at the same time, he's like Young Thug, he's McConan, he's Future, he's every like major Atlanta artist wrapped into one, but at the same time he puts a whole new spin on it.
Yeah, it's got like a very juvenile and playful feel almost to his songs.
Plus the production, Burberry Perry's his producer.
I was not familiar with Burberry Perry before this, and he's on one. He's going to be something one day.
It's really melodic, bouncy. It's crazy.
Yeah, so one thing I noticed about the cover, which features Lil Yachty himself standing in a sailboat wearing, like, coverall, like, waders, is that there are 2 coordinates on the bottom.
Yeah, it's the coordinates of Atlanta. Right?
Yeah, and when I plugged it in on Google, it's, like, just downtown Atlanta, as far as I can tell. It's next to, like, a college, but I don't really think Lil Yachty went to college. Pretty sure he dropped out.
He went to college for, like, 2 months, I think.
Yeah, so I'm just going to assume that was not it. One thing that I found interesting was there's a little bit of a parallel here between this album and Tyler, the Creator's first 3 albums.
Really?
You might not realize it at first, but the the concepts of Tyler's first 3 albums are 3 therapy sessions in which an older character, Dr. TC, conducts them. And kind of...
How he's, like, in the first track, he's, like...
Yeah, he's Lil
Yachty and Lil Bo.
Yeah, throughout the entire album, there's multiple personalities, just like Tyler's first 3 albums deal with multiple personalities of Wolf and Sam and Dr. TC and Tron Cat and all the various characters.
I didn't put that together. Yeah, that's
cool.
I
kind of figured this out last night. So the 2 characters that Lil Yachty kind of portrays in this album, for lack of a better term, and it's not really characters, more or less just like personalities than anything else.
Yeah, personalities in his music. Like, he's in the first track, he lays it out. He's Lil Yachty, and then he's Lil Boat. Lil Yachty's aggressive, and Lil Boat is like auto-tuned, and
like singing whine, like almost a whining style.
It's more like a McConan type.
Yeah, it's almost Young Thug like, because Young Thug or like Travis Scott kind of does stuff like that too, where they kind of just like make noise into the auto-tuner.
Yeah,
and it's very monotone, and that's what makes the auto-tune work better. But there's something really like almost relaxing about it, and I don't know why. He has a very like weird voice.
I'd almost call it like lullaby trap.
Yeah, that's like a really good description of it. He has this thing with his voice where he almost has a lisp in a way, and his voice is very soft, like the way it sounds, very round and soft sounding. It's not very sharp. It's very like like flowy and nice. So I guess now that we've talked about the way the album sounds, we can get into maybe some tracks and some stuff like that, or some things we enjoyed about the album and didn't enjoy. I enjoyed the fact that he kind of mixed his flow a little bit throughout the album.
He switched it up quite a bit. I mean, his lyrics aren't great.
They aren't the best, but
there's a couple really funny one-liners. But other than that, it's like a lot of repeating the same verse over and over.
Yeah, and one thing that I did like about Lil Yachty is he didn't just talk about money and women the whole time like a lot of Southern rappers do. There are some songs where it does that, like Good Day is literally about having lots of money in your bank account and having like a new girl. Like that's the entire concept of the song. But
at the same time, he towards the end of the album on effed over. He's like sad about his ex-girlfriend because she
just left him
or whatever.
Yeah, and I thought that was good, and I thought that there was a kind of a mix of like speeds on this album and sort of what the different songs were about. My favorite songs I have listed on our notes that we're reading from right here. I really like the intro track, which features a Finding Nemo sample.
That's really cool.
Which was like really good.
Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming.
Great example of his poor lyrics, though. He says something about being so cold that you might need a fan, which makes zero sense. But
that's the point of it, though. It's ridiculous, and that's his thing.
And this was one of the many tracks produced on this mixtape by Burberry Perry, who has a really nice mix of like a bubbly, light synth overtone with these really hard driving like bass lines that go under it, and the occasional
awesome
like
trap hats.
Yeah, and like occasional really good trap hats. My next song was the song that follows it, which is another Burberry Perry produced track, "Wanna Be Us," which kind of follows the light synthiness with the heavy bass, and it really goes hard. It's kind of almost a banger in a way.
Yeah, that's probably that and Minnesota are probably the two hardest tracks on this.
And Minnesota is probably my favorite song on the track, or not.
Quavo feature, Young Thug feature.
Yeah, and the Quavo feature is really good. The three Migos, not the three Amigos, but the three Migos all kind of share a similar flow style.
Yeah,
and I thought Quavo. I thought Quavo kind of broke that at a few times, which is nice. There's still the thing where like they hype man themselves when they go back and record over it, which is whatever. That's just kind of Migos thing, I guess. But
yeah, they're ad libs, whatever. But
I thought that he sounded good. I thought that Young Thug sounded great. He kind of broke his mold too.
It's not the best Thugger verse I've heard in a while, but it's new.
I enjoyed it.
Season 3 out next Friday.
We'll probably get to that too.
Yeah.
I really like that. I love the fact that Quavo spent a good like 15 or 20 seconds just yelling "I love my Motorola" at the end of his verse. That was like that was really my favorite. It was good. I really liked "Run Running." That was like a very light-hearted beat. It sounds like Rugrats, but it also sounds like when you take a straw and you just breathe through it like back and forth. It's like a mix of like the Rugrats noise from like the xylophone in that theme song, and if you breathe through a straw back and forth, like if you listen to the song, you'll probably hear what I mean. It's really weird.
Lil Yachty did remix the Rugrats theme song like a while back, probably 2 or 3 months ago. It's on his SoundCloud. You should check it out. It's really funny. Yeah,
and this album is free, by the way, or mixtape. It's on AudioMac, SoundCloud. It's probably on some other stuff.
I think it's only on SoundCloud and AudioMac.
Yeah. There's zips for it all over the place, so if you want to actually save it on your phone. But I would say overall this was a pretty interesting album. There are some songs that are kind of boring and repetitive that just get old.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's interesting to see like he's able to create like such a new sound in a genre that's already like way oversaturated with
other people
so
played
many
out.
different rappers.
Definitely. I would say overall though I'd probably give it a 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe 6.5.
Yeah, it's probably something that I'll listen to for a few months and then probably forget about. But
yeah, unless he comes out with something new soon, that's even better.
Yeah, I'm not expecting too much from a follow up from him, but you never know. I listened to this album probably 3 times all the way through, and I seem to enjoy it just a little bit more every single time.
It grows on you a lot. The first time you're just kind of
it's like Young Thug, and the fact that the first time you hear Young Thug, you're gonna you can't understand what he's saying. It sounds weird, and you've never heard anything like it before. And then after a while, you're kind of like, this is pretty good. It bumps, you know. That's the way I kind of felt about it. All right, so we can move on to our next segment, which is called. Oh, 1 second. I think we're gonna do what we're listening to next, which is our segment.
Some recent.
No, Chrome broke. Oh well, whatever. Keep going. We're fine.
So some recent tracks that I've found on SoundCloud that I've been listening to. This most recent Bia track. She's a Boston rapper and singer. It's called Gucci Coming Home, and basically it's about Gucci Mane and how he's in jail, and it reminds me a lot of Kali Uchis and MIA a little bit, but the production on this is absolutely gorgeous. There's sugary piano chords, awesome bass line, and the drum line's really, really great too.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I only listened to it, I think, twice, but I thought that it was pretty solid overall. Something new that I hadn't heard a lot.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. I would definitely like to hear more from her in the future.
Yeah, it's different from some of her other songs, though. It's a lot. Most of her other songs are a lot harder, but this was really melodic. She switches in between singing and rapping a lot. And then there's a really funny line where she says, "If Gucci coming home, then we don't need no Donald Trump."
Maybe if Kanye does actually run for president in 2020, Gucci Mane will be his VP. I doubt it, but a man can hope, you know?
Yeah, we can hope, yeah.
Free Gucci. So, what I've been listening to recently is in my car, my beloved Subaru Legacy. I don't have an aux cord, so I can only listen to music that I have on CD. But the other issue I have is I have Apple Music, so I stream a lot of the music I listen to. But you can't burn music from Apple Music onto a CD. You can only burn music that you actually own. Mm-hmm. So you're limited to having stuff that is basically from my parents' library or that I've bought myself. But just like Leo, we were both huge fans of the Smiths.
Thrift stores are keys for finding CDs.
Yeah, thrift stores, major key.
Yeah.
But Leo and I are both huge fans of the Smiths, and my mom is a very large fan of the Smiths. So I have the album Louder Than Bombs on CD. I managed to burn that from my computer. So I've been listening to that in my car recently. And I have grown very fond of the track Half a Person, which kind of talks about Morrissey going to London and trying to find himself, checking in at the YWCA, which is like...
It's like the YMCA, but
for girls.
For women and
But
children.
he's a boy, so, that's an issue. He talks about how he likes it and how he could stay. But he talks about the fact that he's 16, clumsy, and shy, which is... I guess my entire life rolled into, like, one lyric, in a way. And the fact that he talks about being, like, morbid and pale, which I've also gotten out because I am crucially underweight and I don't tan, like, at all. So I look just dead all the time. It's pretty sweet. I like the fact that there's a line in here that says, "She wrote me equally," I think that's Dor, she said, "In the days when you were hopelessly poor, I just liked you more." Which is kind of sad in the fact that he was manipulated in a way by a girl, maybe as he was trying to figure out, who he was, and the fact that people only liked him when he was sort of sad and mistreated and didn't know who he was, and the fact that as he started to find himself and find happiness, people didn't enjoy him as a person as much, which is kind of a really, like, messed up thing to say.
Yeah.
And then another track that I will always love off of Louder Than Bombs is Panic, which is a classic about how...
radio music is just bland and
awful. Pop garbage, which is how I feel to this single day. Like, in my chemistry class, I have my teacher will sometimes turn on, like, Pandora to, like, today's hits, and it's the most awful, unlistenable garbage that I've ever heard in my entire life. The only, like, true pop artists I would say that I probably ever listened to are, like, Drake and Rihanna.
Yeah.
And even then, Rihanna sort of is like, and Kanye, but, like...
Kanye doesn't really show up on the radio that much, though.
Yeah, especially not anymore. Like, when 808s came out, like, Heartless was, like, everywhere. That was the biggest song. Stronger is huge, too. Yeah. But I enjoy the fact that he talks about how the radio and the DJs, they say nothing to me about my life because pop songs are just kind of filler garbage at this point, that they don't mean anything anymore. Like, I guess you could say Adele kind of does, but at the same time, it's like, how many people wrote that for her to sing? Like, the era, like, one of the reasons I love hip-hop so much is the fact that that person, more than likely, unless it's like Diddy, wrote those lyrics. Yeah, or Drake, allegedly.
Drake has a ghostwriter,
Allegedly. I read that he just made a reference track and helped him with some of the flow, and that he didn't actually use any of his lyrics, or, like, only one of them. So that's still up in the air. I still like Drake's sound sometimes. I don't really think he's a great, like...
He's not a great lyricist.
Lyricist or artist, but he has very good flow. He's a horrible rhymer.
Yes.
Like, so many of his songs are just spent him rhyming one word with itself for, like, 8 lines straight.
Yeah.
Like saying boy, or, like, in the song You and the Six, he just keeps saying mama at the end of every line.
Yeah.
Which is repetitive. But he is good at making, like, bangers. Like, What a Time to Be Alive, even though it's not the most in-depth or maybe my favorite thing I've ever heard. If I need something to get my heart going or, like, get me pumped up to, like, I don't know, get out of bed in the morning, it's a good album to turn on because it's very high BPM.
Yeah.
It's another example of how Metro Boomin is kind of taking over the hip hop game. Would you say he's the biggest producer in hip hop right now? Unless you count Kanye as a producer, but he doesn't produce for other people, really.
Probably, Metro.
Yeah, it's like Metro, DJ Mustard, and like
DJ Mustard's
Travis
so pop,
Scott,
though.
Yeah, he is very, very pop, and DJ Mustard is such a distinct sound, and like Metro Boomin has a huge variety in what he can do because he has like the super
every
trap
DJ
stuff.
Mustard beat is the same.
it's pretty much the same drums with like a different of that weird like synth
the
that he
same
has.
synth too.
Yeah. And it just sounds like it should be like a Jason Derulo or like a Chris Brown song every single time.
Always. Okay, second I have Matt Champion, Salute. Matt Champion is part of Brockhampton, Texas all-American boy band featuring Kevin Abstract. More people may have heard of him. But he released this track, Salute, the other day. It's basically about, like, points out the irony of toasting to health because you're destroying your body by, like, drinking or doing drugs and all that. It's really, the instrumental is so gritty. It's got this heavy bass line with hats and just awesome, awesome instrumental. I think he produced it himself. It's got, like bass guitar, bass line, and at one point he, like, pitch shifts his lyrics up higher, and it's just a really, really interesting track. I wouldn't want to classify it as any specific genre, though. It's like in between kind of almost an alt rock like thing and rap at the same time. And his lyrics are really, really great. He talks about like popping over white lines in a parking lot in his skateboard, comparing them to like lines of cocaine.
Ooh, that's deep. It's funny that you mentioned really falsetto. Cool. It's one thing I forgot to mention about Lil Yachty when we were talking about him. He has a surprisingly okay falsetto for a rapper. Like, on Minnesota, the entire song for him is sung in his falsetto, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a few points in the album where he also raps in his falsetto, which is kind of interesting, which I liked. I didn't listen to this track, sadly. I didn't think to do that, but oh well.
Yeah.
Another track that I've been listening to is by D Savage, who is a teenage rapper who is on the upstart record label Saki World Records, which is run by John Ross, who is a high school student who is a protege of Ian Connor, just like Lil Yachty. He has a very interesting noise. It's hard to explain. I don't know if I even like it, but I just can't seem to turn it off. It's kind of like how I feel about Future sometimes. I don't know if I really like Future, but I like can't not listen to Future sometimes.
Okay.
Which is weird. He's kind of interesting. He has a song with Young Weege that's dedicated. Young Weege is another rapper from
LA.
Saki World, who is a Korean immigrant who like moved here when he was like 7, and like English is his second language.
And he's like 14.
Yeah, he's also in middle school too, and has gotten in a lot of trouble for things that he's done on the internet. Yeah. He's an interesting fellow, but it's a very endearing song about how they missed their friend Jack, who got killed in a hit and run accident in Los Angeles. Yeah. And Jack, their friend, kind of inspired them to like get into music and make their brands go. They were kind of doing their thing before, but I think that really set in motion that like your time is limited. Yeah. You never know what's going to happen. And then so D Savage and Young Weege are very interesting characters.
Yeah.
And then I guess my final song I've been listening to is Please, Please, Please Let Me Get What I Want, which is the first song I ever loved by the Smiths. In case you didn't know, we kind of glanced over that. Yeah, the Smiths are a band from the 80s from Manchester, England, with their two main members being Stephen Morrissey as the singer and lyricist, and Johnny Marr on the guitar. Johnny Marr is considered, in my opinion, many others, to be one of the most influential guitarists of alternative music ever. His sound is still very parodied today in indie rock, as far as I can tell.
Yeah,
does anyone do Johnny Marr's guitaring as well as Johnny Marr?
No.
Probably not, but his sound is definitely there. And Morrissey, after they broke up, they were only in existence for 5 years. They lasted from 1982 to 1987. Morrissey went on to have a very somewhat successful solo career and has done like stadium tours in the U.S. and all over the place. He's an interesting fellow. He's very good to quote because his lyrics are very in depth, but like in interviews he says just like the funniest stuff, like the fire in one's stomach is extremely necessary, or else you become like Michael Bublé, famous and non-important.
Yeah.
Which is one of the funniest things
Some
ever.
of you may know him from the recent Supreme collab, which he
protested.
Was very, very against because of the whole White Castle deal, and he's
vegan.
He's a vegan.
He will also only play a venue if the entire venue will go vegan while he's there. So like he won't play a stadium if they serve like meat inside it while he's there, which is interesting. So back to Please, Please, Please Let Me Get What I Want. This is, I would say, one of the two most famous Smith songs.
Yeah.
This song was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which a lot of people don't know. When they go to the art museum, the instrumental for the song is there. It's a very short song. It doesn't really have a chorus. It's just kind of like a 1.5 minute long like ballad, I guess, of like being unhappy and not, hoping that something good finally goes in your life.
All right, sorry about that.
Yeah, phone call interrupted. My bad, or not my bad, but Mr. Millard's bad, I guess. I don't know. So, the other most famous Smith song I would say is probably How Soon Is Now.
Yeah.
Because that was in, like, The Wedding Singer of all movies. And it's got this very interesting echo.
Ask.
Yeah, Ask is really famous, too. It's got this really echoey, like, guitar that is it's just very interesting. It's like a very, like, weird experimental sound of a song. So that's what I've been listening to, which I kind of always listen to the Smiths, though, so I could do that for every time we do this, because I'm always listening to the Smiths. But, you know, this has been episode 1 of Sad Boys Club. Be sure to follow us.
Sad Boys Club. Rad Boys Club.
Oh, yeah. Not Sad Boys. No Young Lean here. Sorry. Rad Boys Club.
That's tomorrow.
Yeah, that is tomorrow. Be sure to follow both of us on social media. I am at Carter_Chapman_ on Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah, and I'm at OVVALS on Twitter and Instagram as well.
And then you can follow our Twitter at RadBoysClub_.
Yep.
And you can stay up to date with all of our podcasts and anything big that happens. We'd like to thank Ms. Millard for giving us this opportunity, our producer Matt, who has been sitting behind the camera trying to figure out what we're talking about the entire time.
Yep.
And we'll see you soon.
It still smells like sour cream and onion chips in here from earlier when he was eating them.
Yeah, that's...
Matt.
Sour cream and onion chips.
So, yeah, this has been Rad Boys Club.
Yeah,
and
thank you so much.
We will be back soon.